I'm going to ask you sort of an initial question, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves when I ask that question. Say a little bit about where you're from, what region you're from, and your business, and then I want you to tell us, give us an overview of the Next Gen story in your region. How did you form your partnership? What are you focusing on? What sort of successes and challenges you've had along the way? And maybe what a breakthrough was, and maybe what a surprise was as part of that. If you forget all the things I just said, I'll remind you, okay? But let's sort of start, let's just start here, Nate, with you, and go down this row, kind of go down this row, and take it one at a time. So why don't you tell us about your Next Gen story?
Okay. Well, I forgot everything you asked. I'm Nate Williams, I'm Director of Manufacturing for VACUTECH, part of the Sheridan and Johnson County Manufacturing Sector Partnership. So journey-wise, we started about 9 months ago, as the other sector partnerships did, identify the manufacturing industry, which is growing in Sheridan and Johnson County, thankfully, as a sector and area that we wanted to focus on. As the other sector partnerships began, we brought the public sector in to listen, the private sector to discuss what are the issues, what are the challenges, how to move forward. And in our second session, we identified really 2 areas that we wanted to focus on, and that's business-to-business collaboration. So how do we, as a group of manufacturers, support one another? Manufacturing not being not a prevalent industry in Wyoming, being somewhat isolated in Wyoming regarding transport, materials, vendors, etc. How do we support one another? How can we benefit the businesses that we each participate in? And the other area was talent. How do we identify our future workforce? How do we maintain our current workforce? And how do we build that within the community? How do we educate the community about what manufacturing is, what it can contribute to the community locally, to the state more broadly? And so that's where we moved on. And really we focused on, first and foremost, public sector, give us some room to breathe, let us understand what we need to focus on. And that's really where we've been focused, is what can we do to help one another? What are the things that we need to touch on from that talent perspective? And we're at a point now where I think we're really ready to engage more with the public sector to start digging in and identifying those opportunities to grow and continue to sustain our particular sector.
Anything particularly surprised you as you got involved in this?
Oh boy. I guess the surprise, and it's not too much of a surprise, but the willingness of the different businesses to really participate. In Sheridan and Johnson County, the public sector is always there, always ready to support. They're eager to support, and I know that I imagine that was a challenge for us to say, lay off for a little bit, let us go. But the business partners that are involved, I think that was the biggest surprise, the willingness to recognize and consistently say, yes, this is interesting for us. Oh, you deal with that problem, so do we. And it's just a great opportunity to come together, and rather than solving the same problems separately and independently, we can help to do that together.
My observation is very similar, that you guys were fast off the blocks. You took ownership very quickly of your own effort rather than defer. And also recognize that you need to do some more work yourselves before you were ready to be good partners, or ready to ask them in. And that was a real different kind of feel to it. Even that very first launch meeting, you can kind of feel the room kind of gravitating towards that. So,
we're different. That's for sure.
There you go. Okay, well, terrific. Thank you for that opening. Penny.
I'm Penny Fletcher. I'm here from Cheyenne in Laramie County, and I was an industry champion and now co-convener of the Hospitality Partnership, which was the second partnership launched. We launched right before Christmas. Our focuses were, as John mentioned, talent, which is no surprise, but we also wanted to do some training, and we are calling it the Cheyenne Experience Training, so that all of the folks that work in hospitality have a good understanding of the various opportunities for people who are in Cheyenne, not only the tourists, but maybe the locals who don't think about doing some other things because they can do it at any time that they wanted. We have some great things coming up for the summer that I'm sure we'll get into later in the morning. And one of my biggest surprises was the two folks that ended up being our industry chairs, our co-conveners, our co-champions. Neither one of them attended the Lander Academy, and so it was kind of a learning curve for them to understand this whole process, and they are rock stars. They're both amazing people to work with.
I think that is great. You never know where those champions are going to come from, right? Great lesson. And I know the rest of you felt that too. Some of you later to the party or found people who just came up through the woodwork. Nobody thought that they wanted to be part of this, but that tends to be what happens. Oh, great. Well, thank you for that. Cody.
I'm Cody CLINE. I'm with GW Mechanical. I'm the project manager and owner in training. We're pretty new to the next gen in Natrona County. It's pretty exciting. Our focus is on construction. Talent would be our #1 concern in most of the trades. Our second concern, and one of the ones that I'm heading, is regulations. I know as a mechanical company, there's not a lot of focus on apprenticeships. Our partners in Cheyenne have a good program, and I'd like to see that program go statewide. The other regulations we're working on is a couple of our trade partners, especially in the electrical community. They have struggles with people from out of state when they want to come here and work and move to Wyoming. They have trouble getting their license to transfer to Wyoming. So that's a struggle, trying to get people to come back to Wyoming, which is what we want. We want to grow our own, and we want people to come back to Wyoming so we can increase our workforce. One of the major surprises when I sat in a room with a bunch of construction people was, and it shouldn't have been a surprise, but everyone said that talent was their major issue. And I guess it did shock me to hear that I'm not alone. and so that's our focus right now is definitely training new people, retaining people, and getting people to stay in Wyoming.
See, sometimes, Cody, in the public sector, we assume that you guys always compare notes.
Absolutely.
Yourselves. In reality, that actually doesn't happen all that often. Sometimes that's right, but the fact that you found that to be surprised that you weren't alone speaks volumes to us. It's so important that you provide that platform. Well, welcome to the Next Gen family. I know it's fairly recent for you to be part of this, so it might seem like a blur, but great example of how this can work quickly. And I know you also talk about Larry, what you're doing, and how what's going on in some other partnerships that you helped inspire some of this too. So you want to speak to that just a little bit? And did you hear about the Laramie County partnership?
What they have done, as far as I know, when I spoke with Larry, he had mentioned that the school district had hired basically like a guidance counselor that focuses on trades in the schools, which I know. I would assume you guys are the only people that have that, and that's a wonderful thing. If we can get that in Natrona County and all the other school districts, I think that's a wonderful thing. I'm not saying college is a bad thing, but the kids need to understand that's not their only choice. The trades offer good work, good pay, and good careers.
And one of the benefits of doing this in multiple regions during the same time period is that you begin to get some of this. Right, so a good idea and learning may also be a good idea. You are, and so as the industry, so we have more manufacturing and healthcare, they begin to compare notes and come up with ideas that they can build on. So sharing best practices within the state. So terrific. And again, welcome, Larry.
I'm Larry FODOR with Mechanical Systems. I'm Larry FODOR with Mechanical Systems here in Laramie County. I'm the project manager and one of the industry champions for construction here. We identified pretty quickly in Lander that construction had the most opportunity for advancement here in Laramie County over the next 10 years, and that a lot of the other sectors, such as hospitality and things, could benefit from the expansion of the construction industry here. Some of our surprises that we had early on was the willingness of the public sector to participate. And it seemed a challenge for them at first with the concept of staying quiet and listening to what industry had to say. But as soon as they took the time to listen, it was surprising to me how quickly they were willing to act and willing to help and come together with us. And some of the ideas they had that, you know, typically in the settings we've had in the past and the groups we've had in the past, maybe seemed a little outlandish. We were all willing to sit down and consider the ideas, and some of that collaboration that's come out of that with the community colleges and with the school district here, as well as the state agencies and local agencies has been great. And it was interesting that, for me anyway, to find out that everyone has been working on the same issues. Everybody had the same problem. Everybody was trying to find their own solutions, but we were all talking in a vacuum and not coming together. So I think this next gen, you know, allowed that opportunity for everybody to have the same discussion and actually openly listen to each other to find the solutions.
Right. Can you tell a little bit about the dual enrollment program and the limited path?
Sure. That was one of the eye-openers for us in industry when we sat down with the school district following our launch meeting in August, just to find out they didn't have a clear path for sending a kid to trades or to construction or a kid that wasn't headed to college. And it made perfect sense that when a kid is interested in college, they hand him an application and give him a building number, and he goes and turns that application in, and he's enrolled in college. With the trades, they didn't have what they called an illuminated path for those students to be able to go to a one point of contact for the construction industry to find placement for a kid that might be interested in the trades or construction industry. So with that, we developed a single email address that's monitored by the Wyoming Young Contractors Association. And any of the guidance counselors, any of the students, anybody can contact that single point of contact now. We filter that through the WYCA, and we make direct contact with either the counselor or the student and do a quick interview to find out what their interest may be. And if they don't know, we'll sit down and meet with them in conjunction with the guidance counselors of the schools and just try to find that correct path. So I think, you know, we've had about 40 hits on the website so far. We've probably met with 32 or so of those students. And whether, you know, they have an interest in electrical or mechanical or carpentry, we send those companies to talk to those students and just give them a better idea of what they're looking at.
So big change from what was in place before.
Absolutely.
Just a few months before.
And part of the collaboration I was talking about with the school district, the workforce coordinator position, you know, they reached out to us and said, would you be willing to sit in on the interviews? Yes, this is going to be a district employee, but we feel that industry needs to have input on who's going to be that point of contact for industry. So we sat through 5 interviews and narrowed it down to 1. And now there's a workforce coordinator for Laramie School District number 1. And her job is solely to find placement for the students that aren't college bound. And the district said it was eye-opening that they had such an underserved population at these schools that they hadn't dealt with in the past. You know, if the kid wasn't going to a college route, you know, they turned him loose after graduation and wished him luck. And now we're doing what we can to find placement for these students, whether it's our industry or not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as I said, a big change, and what really has struck me with this, Larry, is not only the group of you as construction leaders taking responsibility and pushing hard and delivering, and following through what you're talking about, but also the public partners and how you really did, those of you public partners, hung back, followed the discipline. It was frustrating, I know, I spoke to several of you. And now it's a two-way conversation, and there's active public-private collaboration. Again, this is where these things always end up if they're successful, because why would we leverage each other's strengths? And everybody's playing a complementary role and adding their own special ingredient to the solution. That's the secret of this stuff. If we can get to that point, then we'll open up all sorts of doors of opportunity. So again, thank you. So you were the first partnership launch too, so there's a lot of writing there. So great, thank you. All right, let's turn over here and let's start with Ryan.
So we're, sit back here. I have a big mouth anyways. My team will attest. I'm Brian Hedges. I'm the CEO of the Lander Medical Clinic in Western Family Care in Lander and Riverton. We're a privately owned company owned by our own physicians that have been around for 70 plus years there in Fremont County. When we first met, we decided to choose 4 different avenues to go down. One was training. One was, as you know, there's a huge shortage in nurses, a huge shortage in CNAs, care and stuff for the nursing homes, the hospitals, everything else. Telehealth. Telehealth is huge now in Wyoming. As you know, specialists are becoming fewer and far between, especially for our rural communities. And so even us in Lander and Riverton as a rural community, they use telehealth now as host sites, as regular sites for people to be able to see their physician without traveling the multi-miles they usually have to. Recruitment and retention. It is extremely difficult to recruit nurses, extremely difficult to recruit physicians to Wyoming. One of the issues we run into in Wyoming is student loan reimbursement. Your physicians, specialists are coming out of school with astronomical student loans to pay. Majority of the other states around us have programs that they will forgive those loans or they will help pay those loans off. So it's extremely difficult for Wyoming and our rural communities to compete with that. And our fourth was a community assessment. Fremont County is the largest county in the state, and we're probably the most diverse. We go from Du Bois to Shoshone, to Lander, Riverton, South Pass, and we also encompass the Wind River Indian Reservation, which is an extremely diverse dynamics there. So we decided to do our community assessment to see just what all these different aspects, all these different dynamics in the community thought was the biggest gap in healthcare coverage and that. And I think one of the biggest surprises we came across was everybody, I reiterate, everybody has the same struggles, but we don't seem to communicate. We sit out there in our silos, think we're the only ones because we're technically competitors. And I think NextGen has helped us alleviate that competition and know that we're all in this together, and to be able to provide the best health care for our community as our population ages. We need to be on the same team with that.
Great. The competition element is something that comes up all the time. People ask, how can people in the same sector really work together? How can they do it?
Yeah, you have to be able to sustain and grow and keep up with the multiple changes that happen every day in the healthcare industry, and I'm sure in every other industry as well.
Did you guys have any issues with working together? Were you able to sort of identify areas where you had, and then keep other areas kind of?
Yeah, I don't think we've had any issues working together. We work well together. We work well with the hospital, the nursing homes. I think our biggest concern is we need the physicians, the providers, the specialists for the county, and particularly as a CEO that has 20-some providers. If they want to come to the community and go practice somewhere else, that's great, because we need the help, and we'll be glad to have collaboration with them. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Dick Smith. I'm the Human Resources Officer at CODY Regional Health. And we kicked off our initiative back in November. And our focus is a lot like Ryan's, actually. It's healthcare acquisition and talent. And initially, when we got together, it was primarily hospitals. We had some dentist offices. We had some long-term care providers as well. And when we initially got together, I think our conundrum a little bit was similar in that we are all clamoring for talent. Healthcare is one of the few industries, I think, that can really accurately say to a new high school grad that if you choose healthcare, you'll find a great job that pays well. We always tell them you could literally throw a dart at a map of the United States, and wherever it lands, you can find a job. So we have this industry that is ripe for providing great opportunity, yet we're all challenged with how do we attract talent back to our communities. And the competition issue, I think that was kind of the elephant in the room. You had a bunch of HR and recruiting individuals from hospitals sitting in the same room talking about how are we going to collaborate when in reality we are competing for the same talent. I remember I went back to our recruiter and told her what I was initially getting involved in, and she looked a little panicky, like, well, yeah, but we're competing for the same talent. What we realized, though, quickly is that as an industry, we have an obligation to cultivate interest in healthcare, and we also have an obligation to try and draw that talent back to our small communities. So we developed this initiative that we think is going to accomplish both those things. We are going to collaborate with the middle schools and develop a curriculum where the middle school kids, through the course of a year, would spend time in each of the hospitals and the long-term care centers that are in the Bighorn Basin. We have a little bit of experience with this right now. At CODY Regional Health, we've participated about 4 or 5 years now in what is called the REACH Healthcare Camp. REACH Healthcare is a national foundation that focuses primarily on underserved areas for healthcare. And they have grant opportunities, and one of those opportunities is to create a healthcare camp for middle school kids. So we have some experience doing that at CODY, and we felt this is something that we could template for the other hospitals in the area. So we are going to be spending the school year this year working with the schools, and we're envisioning that the kids would spend time in each of the facilities in the Bighorn Basin area, including long-term care facilities. And so we're going to spend the balance of this year with the goal to kick it off starting the school year of 2020 would be. So that's how we came up with something that we felt was collaborative with the other hospitals, had similar goals, and kind of worked through that competition issue.
Yeah. Do you think you would have come up with that without that opportunity, the next gen?
Absolutely not. I think that you mentioned that earlier in your opening remarks, that the Next Gen initiative kind of enlightened us into how we would collaborate with organizations that are otherwise what we consider our competition.
Speaking of competition, watch out, Ryan's taking notes on your
Keep an eye on Ryan.
That's right. Yeah. Should have put them two together, right?
Yeah, good morning. My name is KATRIN and I'm from GILLETTE, Wyoming, and I owe to my team that we are the beast from the Northeast. So over a couple of years, that's what we are. We launched in our finance sector last year in September, and we were the first launch, and I work for PINNACLE Bank. So bankers, insurance agents and investment brokers got together and collaborated on what needs to change or would like to see to change into that. And 3 pipelines kind of came up, and one was talent, just like many of others. In the finance sector in GILLETTE, we have the big issue of the coal mines paying a lot more money to young peers in our community that our finance sector cannot compete with the wages. And it's very hard to find good talent for the finance sector. So what came out to be that we are now working with the schools and the colleges to create internships with the banks and insurance agencies and stuff like that. So we could maybe interest the locals more into staying into GILLETTE and also going into the finance sector right out of college. The other one is that we also will be more present at job fairs and just to perk the interest in the finance sector and do that, sort of things. The other one was community education. A lot of people felt like the community doesn't really know what the finance sector all does, like when it comes to purchasing a house or, you know, just right out of school, a lot of people are really uneducated on what it takes when it comes to credit scores and things like that. So a few people took off on that and are creating videos now that are launching on Facebook that you know, always have different topics. The first topic was what do I need to do to start my own business, and the next video will be about, you know, what do I need to do to, you know, maybe purchase a house or something like that. The third one was promoting and building regional assets, and I know, not growing up in Gillette, now moving to Gillette, Gillette always has a bitter taste when I say I'm from Gillette, and then people are like, oh, really, you are? Like, yes, I am, and I love it there. So we want to change that, and that is one of the things we are working on right now. We're trying to create a logo and a slogan for Live Gillette, Love Gillette, or something like that to that effect. We want to brand that. We want to go also through Facebook and eventually websites to show off on what Gillette has to offer, and that Gillette is a good place to live, and what good schools we have, what good college we have, and that people should really look into Gillette when it comes to also retirement. And the other aspect was improving the air service, and John already mentioned, we found out that there is already stuff in place, that the public sector is working already on that, which we were not aware of that. So now we're just attending the meetings and giving our input in on what we would like to see on the air service.
Great. What's the question so far?
Surprising was to me that people took us serious. I feel like when we introduced ourselves and said we are the next gen sector, they're like, oh. You know, like oh, they're really trying to accomplish something. I feel like if I would have been just on my own, even with some other business partners, I don't think people would take us as serious as they do.
Yeah, so the collective sort of power and influence of the sector versus an individual company.
Right.
Interesting. What I love about this region is the diversity of those priorities, right? Community education. So if we had gone to this, and what are your training needs? We would have a whole different set of answers than how do you want to grow your industry. We became interwoven into marketing the community, air service, educating the community on financial literacy, essentially, and then the meat and potatoes of trying to get work with the college to get people on a path to coming to your industry through internships, et cetera, right? So there's a whole bunch of things going on there that are important part of the picture. So, great, thank you. David, and then David, I know appreciate your standing in a little bit for Fred on this, right? So I know you're going to be wearing both hats and speaking, using his voice a little bit and yours, and so I just want to give you that set.
Right, is this on? No. That's better. So yeah, I'm substituting for Fred Von Ahrens. Fred and Ron Wild from Rocky Mountain Power sitting in the back were, I think, our champions. And John can help me a little bit with the history of how this got kicked off. But I'll tell you, I've seen John 3 or 4 times in Rock Springs over the last few months. And so if he's spending as much time in Southwest Wyoming as he's spending around the state, you logged a lot of time.
Oh, I am, trust me.
Pretty sure. But anyway, I work for Genesis Alkali, and Genesis Alkali is one of the 4 natural trona mineral companies in Southwest Wyoming. We actually kind of fly below the radar, but this industry produces soda ash. It's the largest deposit of soda ash in the world, which a lot of people don't understand or realize, but it's a treasure. It's just truly a worldwide asset. It's underground mining. We bring this ore up to the surface. We probably ship something like 12 million tons of this soda ash around the world. It's an export industry. We serve the domestic industry as well, but it's primarily used in glass manufacturing. So if you're going to make glass for automotive windshields or even your cell phone, screen, you have to have soda ash. And of course, you have to have sand too, but the two ingredients together, when you heat them up, creates glass. So it's a wonderful industry for Wyoming. It employs about 2,300 people. And we heard a lot about talent from the previous panelists. This business really took off in the mid-70s, John, and so now we face the prospect of a lot of our folks out there are, 40 plus years. They worked out there, had wonderful careers, wonderful pensions and so on, but they're retired, and we need to replace talent. And so my own company, in the last few years, has been hiring well over 100 people a year. And these jobs, on average, pay well over $100,000 a year. These are manufacturing jobs. They don't necessarily require college degrees, but we got out of the gates pretty fast with NextGen, thanks to John and his colleagues. And the biggest success story today is we have partnered with our local community college, Western Wyoming Community College, and have built out a brand new curriculum to train operators. And the operators are going to run these plants well into the future. The curriculum is going to give them the skill sets they need. So this fall, I believe we're going to kick off the first class. We're going to hopefully get 15 students through this program, and hopefully get it up to 30 students if the college can expand the program over time. But we can hire all those people. So we have the need to hire 20, 30, 40, 50 people through these 4 plants. And then there's also other plants in the area. J.R. Simplot runs a big fertilizer operation there. It's a great economy over there, but we have trouble, even, kids coming out of the high school programs. What's surprising to me, John, is that people who live there and grandfathers and fathers and now sons working out at these plants, there's so little awareness that 20 miles away is an industry that's probably $10 billion, a $10 billion industry in Wyoming, and the folks who live around there, and the kids in particular, have no awareness. So one of the things Fred has done recently is he invited the Sweetwater guidance counselors. I heard someone mention guidance counselors earlier, but we had the guidance counselors out for mine tours and surface tours, to starting with them so that they can then inform the kids, when they're in the high school programs, what the career opportunity is. So there's been so many synergies. I think you mentioned the tourism aspect as well, and that was another one of our, our initiatives, is that when people come to Rock Springs and Green River and they stay in the hotels, they come down to the front desk and they ask the people at the front desk, what is there to do in this area? And typically the answer from the front desk assistants was nothing. There's nothing to do. Absolutely nothing.
So like putting your best foot forward.
Yeah. So one of our work streams through NextGen was, and we have a person who's involved with the tourism industry in the group. She's actually conducted training sessions now with virtually all of the front desk personnel and hotel people to come up with a different response when people are visiting.
So again, I find this so interesting. Out of the manufacturing, because you guys were feeling it, and you took responsibility and did that working with essentially hospitality versus the other way around. But it's just you come up with priorities that matter to you and you figure out how to work them. And that's kind of the story. I'd like to pivot now, and I want to come back to my panelists here. Also remind you to fill out your cards if you haven't done questions, because we're going to be coming down to our last 20-25 minutes. So if you do have a question, put it up and someone will come collect it and bring it to me. So I want to get personal, because you've heard these stories, these evolving stories from these regions and these champions who've been involved. But what makes these people tick? Why do they get involved in NextGen? They all have more than full-time jobs. And this is a ton of work. So why get involved in NextGen? What makes you tick? Why did you personally get involved? Nick?
Okay. Well, I guess I'll first go on record by saying I live in Sheridan, but I am from Gillette. Not too many drones out there. So why involved? First, there's selfishness. As a manufacturer in Wyoming, it's difficult. I want to help it become easier, so that's important. And I guess the bigger picture for me personally is, I may be a poster child for one of our biggest exports, and that's talent. Grew up in Gillette, wanted to stay in Wyoming, educated in Laramie, engineering degree. No doubt. So that was important for me. I went away for 20 years, wanted to come back. And the manufacturing industry has enabled that, and just want to help it grow. Yep, and I think the sector partnerships can help to empower that.
You got together with your colleagues and be able to do that. Thank you.
I have a lot of the same stories actually, because I was born and raised in Evanston, left for a long time and came back. And as Larry mentioned, no matter what sector we would have started with in Laramie County, hospitality is going to be impacted. And I had seen hospitality and tourism working in silos for so long that I thought we had nothing to lose by trying this. And I've met some wonderful people. We've got some great talent. We've got some great opportunities to continue to grow. And hospitality is one of the industries in Wyoming that continues to grow. And so why not take a winning concept and bring it to an industry that can keep the talent here in Wyoming?
Excellent, thank you. Cody?
Honestly, Next Gen kind of fell into my lap. When Mary called me, I've been kind of on a mission myself to find something to work on outside of work. And it was, the way she described it was everything that I wanted to tackle. I mean, she kind of talked about, a lot of the other Next Gen people, what they're doing is working on talent and growing people, and it was hit right with me. So it was a very easy decision to become involved. And recruit other people.
Wait, Larry?
I think probably my initial reaction to Next Gen was selfish reasons as well. We would have journeyman plumber ads out of everywhere we can imagine for 6 months, and you get a couple pallet stacker applications, no real tradesmen. At that point, we knew we had to develop a program from within to take unskilled labor and give them the skills to be successful and have a good career. So that's where Next Gen took off for me, is partnering with LCCC, with the apprenticeship programs that we've worked through with them, and just linking that together with the high schools here in Laramie County. The dual enrollment program that John mentioned earlier is going to kick off this fall at all 4 of the high schools. And that's a program that was a direct result of Next Gen, to where each of the high schools are now going to teach the core curriculum of the NCCER apprenticeship at all 4 high schools, and including some OSHA safety training. That's a dual enrollment with LCCC and all the programs they offer now as well. The majority of the contractors in Laramie County, if they have apprenticeships, they're also NCCER programs. So that'll be a direct feed from the high schools to Laramie County or to contractors that'll continue that education into the apprenticeships, so that we can now form some skilled tradesmen. Also for 10 years, I've heard contractors around the area in Laramie County anyway complaining about the lack of workforce and things like that. Next Gen, the recruiting process has just kind of shown who's willing to put in the work and who's going to continue to complain.
Thank you. Larry's being kind of modest. He has been an active participant in the national community practice for Next Gen as a business champion. He's called in on he's coming in on calls. He was an active participant at the National Academy in Austin, and I've had other business champions say to me, "Who's that guy in Wyoming?" Because he has that, right? He's got that mix of the passion and the discipline, and he'll how can you look in his eyes and say no if he asks you to do something? So that's part of the secret sauce here. But Larry, thank you for your contributions not only here, but nationally as well. What makes you tick?
Well, Dr. Benson's very tenacious and persuasive, so when she asks, she's really hard to say no to. No, actually, the main thing is survival. In this industry, you've got to grow and keep achieving and attaining goals. And I think when we were asked to do it, our philosophy at our company has always been to put back into your community so your community is strong and grows and develops. And when Kristen asked me to be a champion, I said, yeah, I'd love to do it because we want this community to grow and be strong.
So, Dick?
I think for me, it's kind of a combination of, I have a real affection for healthcare. It's been a great career for me. I started out as a respiratory therapist and eventually worked into the HR role. Love healthcare. I think it's a combination where you can certainly make a good living, but also it appeals to your kind of your nurturing, altruistic nature. So, in terms of a career, I have a real affection for healthcare and feel some obligation to try and cultivate interest in it. And then it's combined with having a real affection for CODY and CODY Regional Health. Love the town, love the hospital, love the region, and just feel like it's somewhat of our obligation to promote that and to try and draw individuals into healthcare and specifically into the Bighorn Basin. So it's kind of tapping into your passion, but also an obligation to give back to the industry.
Well, I cannot say no to my friend Mary. That's why I started as a business champion. To be honest, I didn't know what to expect at all. I had little information, but that was okay. I was just I knew I had to get bankers, insurance agents, and investment brokers on one big room at one certain day at a time, and then we'll figure out what's happening next. And I think not knowing much about it at first helped me because I just tried to sell it to them. I said, we can make a difference if we all work together. We can get something in our industry that we may not even know we want yet. And so the curiosity brought all the people. I think we invited 60 and I think 25 to 30 showed up at our first meeting just because people wanted to see what it's about. And that's why I started. And after then the first meeting, we all saw what it was about, and we were really taken away on what we can achieve, especially amongst competitors working with each other. So that's how I started.
She's also being modest. The first meeting, really well attended. The second meeting, not so much.
Yeah.
And instead of going, well, I guess people really aren't into this, she said, let's figure out what we need to do. And she took control of the situation, right, working with the conveners, and said, here's what we need to do. We're going to host this breakfast, I think it was, and we're going to reach out to people individually, and we're going to make sure they know that this is an absolute requirement. And it's like, okay, all right. So it's about that sort of passion and care for the community, but it's absolutely irrepressible. You are not going to take no for an answer. And the third meeting was well attended and now you're on your way. But sometimes you just have to face whatever that reality is and decide you're going to take responsibility. So congratulations for that. That's one of those areas I happen to just witness. So, okay. David, do you have something you want to share in that regard, or knowing what you hear from Fred, channel Fred on that one?
Well, there's clearly a war on talent throughout the whole country right now with very low unemployment. I think we're even in Sweetwater County, we're below 4%, which is really great. It's great for the whole state, but people can work anywhere now. And it's nice when I think someone mentioned when we can keep the kids in Wyoming instead of kids growing up and going to college and then moving away. It's nice to create really great jobs in Wyoming so that children have an opportunity to stay here and stay close to their families. And so I think that's kind of what we're all about. We're just trying to grow the talent we have in the community. We're going to be around for another 100 years. I mean, this is an industry that's not going away. And why would we not pursue something like this? It's the right thing to do. And I think through John and Next Gen, it's brought together a lot of good people, a lot of educators and industry folks. And I think so far we're off to a really running start.
Yeah. I'm going to sort of build a couple of questions, one that I have and one that comes from the audience. And sort of the question really is, how has your Next Gen experience been different? So all of you, I'm sure, have been involved in various community efforts in a variety of ways for various purposes before. What's different about your Next Gen experience compared to things you've worked on before? And let's tell us far. Because I know you were working this before.
Yes, I think just the spirit of collaboration and everybody's willingness to be open and honest and not feel defensive, and everybody willing to come to the table as equals rather than decision makers versus doers and that type of thing. I just think the collaboration between public and private, or private with private. I mean, Cody's one of our competitors here in the state, and I'll help him with anything he needs to get this off the ground. A rising tide floats all boats, and whatever it takes, and I think everybody has that spirit when it comes to Next Gen, whether it's public or private. So.
Cody, do you know other activities, and how's Next Gen different?
The diversity of the people that are in it is a lot different than some of this other stuff I've been involved in. It was nice to see how almost every trade, from landscaping to horizontal construction, was represented in our group. And going forward, we need all those people to work on our issues.
Okay.
Well, again, I'm in hospitality, and hospitality is not a common sector partnership from what I'm understanding, but I like that people who are normally not involved in efforts like this to the community are involved and passionate. We've gotten some of the small business owners, some of the startups, people who don't necessarily go to the Chamber of Commerce meetings or whatnot, and they are at all of our Next Gen meetings, and that's awesome.
Okay.
I would just focus what the gentleman on my left said. You know, the collaboration is something that's very, very tangible. I think very important. In other experiences from my side, you know, there seemed to be very much an initiative focus. It's a very short term, it's a near term. There may be ulterior motives behind some of those things. You're always trying to figure that out. Whereas this, it's just very transparent. And I think there's a great opportunity for sustainability and really to develop some life behind it.
Just kind of echo what those guys said. We had a healthcare alliance in Fremont County for years. We get together, talk, discuss everybody's issues and that, but it really never proceeds any further than that. We just hear what everybody has to say and then we go about our ways. With Next Gen, it's pulled everybody together, taking up that competition aspect, knowing we're all in this together and we can collaborate with each other and try to help the industry as a whole.
Well said. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, similar. The idea of working with organizations that were otherwise regarded as your competition, that would not have happened without the Next Gen initiative. And also just realizing that as healthcare organizations, really our mission is to provide high quality healthcare to our community. And you can't do that without talented healthcare workers. So even once removed from our own desire to recruit talent is ultimately to provide great healthcare to the Bighorn Basin region. So really it even has an impact on the community beyond just recruiting talent, just providing great healthcare to the region.
Well, as a banker, you're always trying to, or you're always supporting the community, any community event you go to attend. But this is kind of our own community event that we're taking on. So it's kind of exciting that we're the one spearheading that and not attending somebody else's event, if that makes sense.
I think the only comment I would offer is when I first arrived in Wyoming about 5 years ago, I was going to the Chamber of Commerce meetings every month. They have a subset of the chamber called the Enterprise Committee, which is made up of 15 or 20 industries in the area. And so we would convene and we would talk about what's going on with our companies and so on. But when I first started attending the Next Gen meetings, I was so impressed with the methodology that John laid out. I got a chance to go to the pre-meeting yesterday, and it was kind of a good reminder, putting industry in the center. Those meetings and the methodology, if it's followed, sort of by a textbook way, if you go down those steps, I mean, you're going to get great results. And I think that's sort of the difference between a Next Gen initiative and a chamber, because the chamber doesn't really come with that package of methodologies. It doesn't need to, that's not the role they perform, but I think that's really a plus to have this methodology that's proven in other areas to work. I think we heard a lot initially about the Northern Colorado success stories, and what's happening down in Northern Colorado is just tremendous, and as far as that goes. But I think that's really impressive. If you follow the textbook, if you follow the methodology, you'll get great results.
And your checks in the mail.
Yeah.
So I'm going to know a couple questions here from the audience, and essentially this is from public partners, support partners. We're wondering when we're listening, we're hearing you say what your needs are. When is it time for us to start helping? Because we think we've got stuff to help with. How do we know when it's time for us to start being partners with you? You want to take that?
I can answer. I mean, I was always open for our conveners or public partners kind of were in the background, but then when they found out that we were working on something, they were not shy about telling us their idea. And if we would, then it was up to us if we would, want their support in that way or not. So I feel like there's never the wrong time to come, just to show your support and to, show them what you can do for them, but then also don't be disappointed if they don't take that and don't go that way.
We just had our third 60-day deliverable meeting, and we flat out asked. One of the things that we did, and you mentioned it in your opening, is we are creating a dedicated platform for all hospitality jobs in Laramie County. So any hotel, any restaurant, any establishment can post on this dedicated platform, and we were rolling that out, and we said to everybody in the room, help us get this out. Do you have an idea of how we can publicize this? Because we need the ideas. And then we were talking about the experience training, and we said, this is great, but you know how busy we are in the summer in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and so who in the audience can help us put these trainings together? We flat out asked.
Yeah, I think it's important, I think that's the same with you, right? You ask.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And to speak to what Penny just talked about her website, I think NSI is going to start selling hot dogs at the front desk just so I can put my job openings on her website. It's going to be amazing. But as far as, when we started involving the public sector, I think they reached out to us following the launch, and specifically Laramie County School District number 1. And it was just a small meeting, and it was, we hear what you're saying, but we're still skeptical. How are you going to prove it to us? Like they were skeptical still, and that's when the bus tour came in. When we loaded up all the guidance counselors and principals and vice principals on the school bus and took them to 10 construction companies and had each of those companies just explain to them the pay and the training and the benefits and just take them through that entire career for those kids. And I think that was eye-opening. They reached out to us as far as just, we think we can help, but you have to prove to us that, this isn't just another gimmick, and it's just, And so I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Because they were still cautious, but it gave us an opportunity to build that, or to strengthen a relationship that I think is going to be here for a while.
So no hard and fast rule. We've heard several kind of flavors here. Kind of the rule of thumb I always use is wait until they're curious about what you do. When they start asking questions, then it's probably about the right time. Because then they're looking for how can we leverage the assets in this community. We've got a priority, we've done enough work in the priority, we're pretty sure about what that is. Now let's look around for partners. And at that moment, it's really important to be good first responders to that. Final question, and I'm just going to pose to everybody in 30 seconds. Advice that you have for other business champions, or potential business champions sitting in the audience today. What would you tell them? And it's
No, well, I think it's suffice to say, you really do have to be passionate about it. I mean, if you're gonna sign up for something like this, you just gotta go all in. And, that's interestingly enough, you really only need a few people to drive something. It's a few passionate people can really get great results. It doesn't require a room full of 50 or 60 people. And you have a few people with the right ingredients, you'll get a great success. So it's terrific.
I would say trust in the process. We were 60 at the beginning, now we have 6 that are continuing moving forward and they are making great progress. And also don't think about, you also venture out to other people that may not have been at the first launch meeting. We have 2 in there right now that were not at the first launch meeting and are helping with great success. So just don't give up, don't take no for an answer, and just trust in the process.
I would say have an open mind. Have to confess, went into it a little bit dubious about where there would be an opportunity to collaborate. But after probably 3 meetings, we realized there was that opportunity. So yeah, just have an open mind, think outside of the box, and just kind of persevere.
I think one of the biggest aspects for me is involving my team at work, my employees in that too, letting them know just what NextGen is so they can spread that to the community also, letting them know just how involved we need to be in it. And I think if you can do that, create a culture in your own work area, your own company, it will really help expand the NextGen experience.
I think from my perspective, it's identifying some quick wins. It's easy to get into these things and talk about some wonderful things and some great ideas and not do anything. And from our sector partnership in particular, manufacturing, we tend to have a lot of technically minded folks, so there's a lot of analysis and discussion, but getting in and actually seeing some tangible benefits and value is really important.
Continue to invite new people, not only industry champions, but business partners, because you don't always have the right people at the table, and people leave and come back, and you just need to continue to say, come see what this is about and find what sparks your interest.
Cody?
Well, I would say commit. I mean, I'm kind of honest, I'm kind of disappointed that there's not more people from Trona County in this room, especially with as big as we are. So I know leaving this thing, it could be on my to-do list to recruit some more people, because I think this is a great thing moving forward.
Typical business champion.
I would say don't be afraid to ask people to help, and don't be afraid to invite new people. And we looked around at 2 meetings ago, and it was all mostly commercial construction sitting at the table. So we reached out to the Southeast Wyoming Home Builders Association, and the next meeting they had 4 people there, and they were very active ever since. So just don't be afraid to reach out to people, because they may surprise you.
Great. And would you join me in thanking our panelists for